do gratitude for the day, and let's try to clean up some of the mess I created yesterday in your brains. And let's get through this so you can get to your 4-day weekend. 4-day weekend. Yes. Very, very exciting. Miss Melodic, what are you grateful for today?
I don't know, I guess waking up, because last night I worked pretty late, and then I had to finish the homework. So I went to bed around like 1, so I was scared I wasn't going to be able to wake up.
Yeah.
But woke up on time, so.
You did, and you seem awake. I mean, maybe you don't feel that way inside, but you look awake. Yeah. Good. Awesome. I am glad you woke up too. That is very good news. Yes. Beats the alternative. Mr. Kandaris, what are you grateful for today, sir?
I don't know, that it's cooling down finally.
I've got bad news for you. Because it's going back up tomorrow. There's a heat advisory tomorrow. Yeah.
Alright, well, soon it will be.
I like your attitude. I really do. Yes. I look forward to that day in December. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, sir. Miss Monreal? I feel like you've told me 17 times how to say your name, and I say it differently every time. By the way, your hair looks fabulous today. What are you grateful for today?
Okay. Thank you for the compliment.
Well deserved.
I am grateful that I had time to Krispy Kreme donuts for my granddaughters. I told them that I would. And if I didn't do it before school, I wouldn't have time after or during lunch. So I made it.
Yeah.
I don't like to break my promise. And I know that that's sugar and unhealthy, but it's a treat.
No, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, where's my damn Krispy Kreme donuts? Man.
Hey, maybe you can have.
Jeez. Doesn't this body look like it was made by Krispy Kreme donuts? I'm on almost an exclusively Krispy Kreme donut diet. Yeah. Yeah, I love those things. I don't know why. I used to bring home 3 dozen to my kids. I have 2 kids. And we would eat 3 dozen donuts, the 3 of us. Not all at once, but during the day. In one day.
Yeah, I don't even like donuts, but you can have.
Yeah, they're not like donuts. They're like little air pillows of heaven. Yeah, they're great. Yes.
Yeah, they're so good.
Awesome. Well, good. That's wonderful. Super sweet of you to do that. Even if you forgot about me, I won't hold that against you. Probably. No. Anyway, good. Awesome. Miss Nguyen, I saw that you hopped on. Hi. I hope you're not driving right now. I hope you're the passenger. Yeah. I can't hear you, though. Yeah? I love that. She gets chauffeured around while she's at school.
I'm so sorry. I'm driving in the car, and I am in the something to have Wi-Fi, and
but your husband's driving, right? You're not driving.
Yeah, my husband driving. I am not driving, but I don't have Wi-Fi, and I go in the coffee shop, and I don't know where here, but I get in the coffee shop, and I come to for online, but I want you give for me 5 minutes because I back home, because in the 5 minutes I already in the back home, but I can't in that. I want to online the car.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so,
well, what are you grateful for today?
I grateful today in the I grateful today in the I wake up and I online the on time have a little late, but and the you give for me 5 minutes or I only give that get for that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. Good. Well, okay, and you're heading back home, so we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I need to in the back home for 5 minutes more, but I saw the stay here because I need to wait for him in the come out because he go to in the toilet. I don't know where.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This has been a very enjoyable discussion. Okay, moving right along.
Yeah, but probably give for me 5 minutes because I back home now.
Well, you're on right now. It's fine. You could walk around with your phone, get to your house, and log in and everything. You're fine.
No, I am on the laptop. My phone can't open about that. I don't know how to open in the phone. I try
No.
to open.
You're in the class right now because we're talking. That's all you have to do. You're good.
Oh.
Just
Yeah.
yeah.
So I try to open in my phone, but you see, I can't do that.
Oh, you're on the laptop right now using the Wi-Fi from the place, and when you leave, you're going to lose us. Now I understand. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little slow. Okay, I got you. Well, thanks for checking in. Hop back on quickly.
Yeah, but
'Cause
I
I
still
can't-
say wait, and I think I go now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, fine.
We'll see you. 5 minutes.
Yeah, please. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Wow. Okay. Miss Cooper. Miss Cooper. There you are. What are you grateful for today, Miss Cooper?
Oh man, I didn't think of it ahead of time. I was doing laundry.
Yeah? Grateful
I
for...
guess I'm grateful that I didn't sleep through my alarms and I was able to get up and do laundry.
Yeah. Good. Clean clothes. Bonus.
So I don't have to do it later.
Yeah, I like that. Awesome.
I'm washing my sheets for class too.
That's always good. Yeah, kind of get the... Otherwise, they get kind of this rancid oil smell after a while.
They get gross.
They do. At least it's
Yeah,
your
yeah.
gross, but, but still, good idea. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Torres, what are you grateful for today? We got to get you a hot spot. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
We can hear you. What are you grateful for?
Sorry. Yeah, my computer is super slow.
No, but we can hear you.
Or my internet. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's your internet.
Well, anyways, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm grateful for another day, for my family, for my kids, my husband.
Another day, your family, your kids, your husband. It's fantastic. Yeah. Is Allison there? No? Maybe? We'll come back to you. Okay. All right. Miss Felix Osuna, what are you grateful for today?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. I'm grateful for surviving the second week of school.
You did. You not only survived, you thrived. You did very well. Yeah, you should pat yourself on the back. Pat yourself on the pat yourself on the scapular region. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And you did really well. We're off to a brilliant start. Yeah. Miss Yanez, what are you grateful for today?
Today I am grateful for my coworkers because on the 2 days that I work, all the servers will tip me out and they pay me extra money to do like side work. So I'm making a lot of money off of them.
That's
they just
awesome.
Don't know it.
I love they're paying you to do their side work. That's great. Sounds like a server.
Yeah. I'll be like, oh, we need to do roll ups, and everybody pays me $5, so I'm making good money at the end of the night.
Yeah. Yeah, I was When I was about your age, I was a waiter at a jazz restaurant. I was terrible. You got to remember a lot of stuff. I'm really polite and everything, but you got to remember a lot of stuff. It's actually really challenging. Yeah. Good. Awesome. I'm glad you have great coworkers. I'm glad you appreciate them, and I'm glad you're taking money from them. It's good. Sounds like it's well earned. Miss Hanson, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful again for my husband and his tech support. I switched computers this morning to see if the microphone would be better, and then the camera didn't work, so he came down and fixed that. So.
Yes.
Grateful for that.
I'm grateful for that too. Thank him for me. That's good. Yeah. Miss Harper, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for today that my husband and his family is very supportive in the courses that the class that I go, and the lab in the afternoon, because they drive me going to the school and drop and pick me up. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad you have the support you deserve. Yeah. That's good. Miss Hunter, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for air and lungs and the ability to breathe the air. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That takes on even greater meaning during the time of COVID, right?
Right.
And we're actually going to talk about systems of the body today real briefly. So lungs is, yeah, part of the cardiovascular pulmonary system. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Stanley, what are you grateful for today?
More or less the color blue.
More or less the color blue. Like my eyes?
Huh?
Nothing. What are you, what, so you love the color blue? So do I. Like the sky, or more or less? What do you mean more or less?
Well, see, the thing is, my favorite color is red, but I keep getting stuck with things that are blue. Like, my car's blue, so I just think blue things are like I could
They're coming
have
to
a red pair of sunglasses, but yesterday I got blue because it matched my car.
Those are cool.
And it's not a bad color.
No, it's a great color. Yeah. Awesome. Blue is calming, says Mr. Ibarra. Yeah.
It is. That's partially why I like it. I'm always happy when I see my car, too, so I'm like, yay. Blue.
Very cool. Awesome. So your car and your glasses match the sky. It's good. It's awesome. Miss Petrie. Hello. What are you grateful for?
Well, I'm grateful I woke up early this morning to get my test done.
Yeah. I thought you weren't going to, and then you surprised me.
Right? And then I'm also grateful for the 4-day weekend. I feel like I have a lot to process this week.
Yeah. A lot of trauma to get over from this week.
No, I mean a lot of study time, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of just organize it better in my head.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Bring it down there, but congratulations to Simon on her test scoring. That's awesome.
yeah, she did really good.
Yeah.
By the way, I promise it gets easier. I realize this is coming from the same teacher that promised you wouldn't have a lot of homework, but it does get a lot easier. You're getting a big mishmash of stuff right now. It gets, hi Miss Nguyen, it gets a lot easier. So, we're kind of throwing a whole lot of stuff at you right now, and you're like, how is it related? Why do I have to know this? That kind of stuff. And it's foundational. It's backstory. It's foundational information. It's much easier when we take a tiny piece of it. Yes, go ahead.
It all makes sense of why you need to know the information. It's just processing the information.
Yes.
For me personally.
No. Probably not just for you. Probably quite a few people feel the way you do. Looking at facial expressions out there, I think there's some people that agree with you. Yes. They're like, this is crazy. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and is Mr. Ibarra still on here? Yes, you are. Mr. Ibarra, what are you grateful for today, sir?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's Thursday. I'm grateful that it's Thursday. We have a 4-day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
everybody's healthy, everyone's doing well in class
Very well.
and in lab. You guys are doing so well that I think Tab Scott, we might have to graduate him early.
Oh, okay, good. You and I can take vacation. That'd be awesome.
No, I'm grateful for all you. You guys are all doing, you're a good group, and you're working hard, but be patient. Please be patient, and things will fall into place. Baby steps, and things will actually, little baby steps like Tab Scott. Yes, there you go. All right, little mini bottles and things like that. So, all right, guys, you guys have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, sir. Okay. Let's do a little review of yesterday before we talk about systems of the body. And we're just talking about an overview of systems for the body. We will actually spend a day on each system down the road. But let's try to talk about yesterday's information a little bit. So, by the way, I got gratitude from everybody, didn't I? I did, yeah. Let's talk about yesterday's stuff just to make sure it kind of organizes in our head. Yeah? So, first off, let's talk about the 5 homework questions. Cool? What was the first one? Because that was the one that the splits. Okay, I brought a little friend to help me today. A little guy here. Here's a little rule of thumb that works 100% of the time. The opposite action of any muscle is stretching it. So here's what I mean by that. If my little friend here flexes his arm, right? If I flex my arm, that's what my bicep does. My bicep flexes my arm. If I extend my arm, it stretches the bicep. If I do the opposite of any muscular action, it stretches it. So, you've got these muscles between your legs that pull your legs together. What do you call it when your stuff comes together, comes back to the body? Back to the body?
Adduction.
Adduction. Yeah, when we add the legs back to the body, it's called adduction. And between your thighs, you've got 5 adductor muscles. We haven't got into this yet. I don't expect you to know it. By the way, I thought the answers to questions were really well thought out. Nobody just said whatever. There was logic in them. But anyway, these muscles between your thighs pull your thighs together. So if you do the splits, you stretch your adductors. You don't use your adductors to stretch, but you stretch them because that's the opposite of what they do. You'd stretch your inner thighs. That was
Isn't that adduction? When you
abduct when you do the splits.
And then when they go like this, it's adduction.
Yep, you add them back together. You add them back together.
I had it split.
Yeah, it's easy to do. So the point is those muscles pull you back together, so when you pull them apart, you stretch your adductors. You stretch your inner thigh muscles. It's confusing. Don't worry, we're actually going to take a look at every single one of these muscles by itself later. So, just to make a point, stuff out to the side is always adduction or abduction. Stuff out to the sides of the body is always abduction or adduction. I'm either going away, abducting, or I'm going towards, adducting, adducting. Away, towards. But anything out to the side is abduction away, adduction back. But it's out to the side. That's the important part. Stuff in front and in back is flexion or extension. Every time. Flexion or extension. Every time. Most of the stuff in front is flexion and most stuff behind you is extension. But it's always one of those two. So stuff back in front here is flexion and extension. Stuff out to the sides is abduction and adduction. Does that kind of help a little bit? Because some of the comments I got was, this stuff seems really similar. You're right, it is. But it depends on what plane you're moving in. And I don't want to explain about the plane again because I think it confuses the whole thing actually. Stuff out to your side, if it's moving away, is abduction. Even my fingertips. Even my wrist going out to the side is abduction. Coming back in or together is adduction. But it's all out to the side. Remember, this is anatomical position, right? So even if my hand goes out to the side, that's abduction. If my hand comes back in without the arm moving even, I don't know if this guy's hand moves, that's adduction. Yeah? But anything in front, I bend my wrist, flexion. I bend my elbow, flexion. I bend my shoulder, flexion. I bend my head, flexion. I bend my torso in front, flexion. The only exception is the knees, which have to bend back here. That's flexion. Everything going back is extension in general, except for the knees. But flexion and extension are front and back. Adduction and abduction are side to side. Cool? Awesome. I think and if you didn't, don't feel bad, but I think basically everybody got the standing on your toes is plantar flexion. That is plantar flexion. I am moving down. Which I'm assuming means everybody understands this concept that when I'm stopping a door with my foot, that's dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. You guys did great on that. Boom. And the other question on there was if you were lifting a partner, what would your arm do? Well, my arm would have to open up, right? If I was in anatomical position, my arm opening up is an extension. So above me, that's an extension of my elbow. It's opening up. I realize, by the way, at this point, the arm may not be at your side or at front or whatever, but remember, we're always thinking of it as though this person is down like this. And the fact is, these arms have to come out to lift somebody. Yes, they're going to be up above you lifting out, but that's what would happen. And so we still talk about it as flexion or extension. Maybe that's what's confusing too. Does that make sense, Miss Hanson? Because you're holding your mouth like this, it makes me worried that you're like, what? Okay, cool, awesome. And we will talk about individual muscles with this stuff. You don't have to know it like the back of your hand right now, like the dorsal region of your hand right now. But you need to be familiar with it so when we start talking about it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember when we talked about this.
I have a question, please. So when you're going over somebody lifting another person, would it be an extension of the arm, elbow, shoulder? Like, what is it?
Yeah, good question. So, multiple joints are involved, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if my elbow is opening up, it's an extension of the elbow.
Mm-hmm.
My arm is actually flexing. My shoulder is actually flexing. My elbow is actually extending. Because flexions happen happen in front. The shoulder's going up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a flexion here. To push the person up too, they're extending the elbow. So flexion of the shoulder, extension of the elbow.
Okay.
And by the way, that's when it gets more confusing, but that's actually the stuff we're going to study is you don't ever just move one joint. Most of the movements you do in life are multi-joint movements. And you can be flexing one area, extending another area, pronating another area, all that kind of stuff. Yes. Cool. Questions about that? Flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction we're going to use probably more than anything. And it seems like everybody's got dorsiflexion and plantar flexion of the ankle, the feet. And then if my hands flip over as though I was going to hold a bowl of soup, if they're starting to turn over, anywhere turning over, that is bowl of soup. Supination. And if I'm going to turn them this way and I'm prone to dumping out the soup. Pronation. Yeah. We also learned about feet pointing inwards. When the bottoms of your feet point inwards, that's inversion. When they point outwards, oh my gosh, my poor guy here. When they point outwards, that's eversion. The stuff we didn't cover yesterday that would have been really tricky on the test was pelvis stuff, where your pelvis is rotated forward or backwards, and up or down. Did anybody have a problem with that? Good. Thank you for raising your hand. So here's the tricky thing. Hopefully my coffee cup's empty enough to do this. Hold on one second. Otherwise I'm going to pour coffee over everything. Think about when you're driving a car, you've got a circle here, right? It's very hard to describe I'm going to make sense of why I'm talking about circles in a second. It's very hard to describe circular motion. So, is this circle going up or down, frontwards or backwards? It's not really doing any. In fact, when it rotates, one of my fingers goes up and one goes down. Right? When it rotates this way, one of my fingers goes up, the other one goes down. When your hands are on a steering wheel and you're driving, one hand is kind of going up, one hand's going down. So we pick a place to talk about when we talk about the hips. We talk about just one hand, and what we do is we pick the top of the hips. And let me get to Mr. Skeleton here to show you what I mean by that. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. The hips of the skeleton can rotate like the steering wheel of a car. So we pick the top of the hips to talk about that. If the hips rotate this way, we say they're going anteriorly. Even though the bottom, this is going to confuse you, but even though the bottom is going posteriorly, because when my hand goes anteriorly on a steering wheel, my other hand goes posteriorly. And so we're like, what are we talking about? We talk about the top hand only. So when my hips rotate and do this funny thing and come forward like that, even though my butt sticks out backwards, we say this is an anterior tilt. When the hips roll back, we say it's a posterior tilt because we're talking about the top of the hip. We just have to pick a place. And a posterior tilt kind of makes me do that. And this will matter a lot later to spine health and how we look at people's spines, because your spine stacks on top of your hips. And then there was something also in there that was talking about kind of if the transverse plane goes through your hips and one side is higher than the other, right? They call it like a lateral elevation. And that can happen on people. You'll kind of see them like this. One side of their hip is up higher. It's laterally tilted. Boom. Yeah. Sometimes moms kind of get this built in their body. They've carried a kid so long like this that they're a little bit laterally tilted all the time. Yeah. And we'll work on that in massage. Does that kind of make sense a little bit? Cool. All right. Doesn't have to make perfect sense, just kind of give you an idea. If it doesn't, by the way, please don't be afraid to say something, because there's somebody else afraid to say something too. Right? Nobody's going to judge you. You're here because you don't know. Right? It's more embarrassing when I don't know, which will happen too. Okay. Cool. Let's get you back like this. Can you think of any other questions? And I realize you'll have more come up later, and sometimes we forget and stuff like that. But anything else that really, like, you have questions about from the test you took, from the homework, from yesterday's lecture, that you're just, you woke up this morning, you're like, I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. And you realize you can change your mind later too. That wasn't a final ask. All right. Cool. All right. Let's review regions of the body really quickly. So we've got regions of the body right now. That was where we talked about like your pectoral region or your gluteal region or your plantar region or your dorsal region, all that stuff. Yeah? You guys remember those pretty well? Yeah? Okay. Well, you seem very confident, Ms. Yanez. What am I grabbing right now? What region am I grabbing right now?
Cephalic.
Cephalic. She's right, huh? I'm grabbing many regions, but she knows I'm grabbing the entire head. That's cephalic, right? I don't know which. What about this region just right in front?
Facial.
Facial. What about this region?
Mandibular.
Mandibular. Awesome. What about this thing up here?
Cranial.
Cranial. Beautiful. And what about this that's holding up the whole thing?
Cervical.
Cervical. Yeah. Cool. Let's stop there with you. Thank you. Miss Cooper. You were nodding your head too. What's this region right here?
Axillary?
Close. We're heading over there.
That's the armpit, right?
Yeah. So what's this? What starts with a P? It's okay to look at your book too.
Yeah.
Anybody want to?
I'm opening it, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just want to give somebody, give you a lifeline. Anybody know what this region's called?
Pectoral.
Pectoral. All right.
Oh, that's an easy one too. I overthought it.
Of course. Think about how many things I threw at you yesterday. Probably 50 new items of information. I would now expect them to be all jumbled in your head. So, we did pectoral. Then when I go over to the armpit, what's this called, Ms. Cooper?
Axillary.
Yes. And then what's this?
I remembered that, but not.
Then what's the arm here called? The upper arm, but it's the arm. You don't want to break it.
Well, I mean, your arm is technically this part, right?
Yep.
This
Yep.
part.
And you don't want to break it.
Brachial.
Yeah.
You helped.
I hope you're all noticing I help on every single question. I will also do this other.
You said you don't want to break it.
Yes. I will also do this other thing, which might throw you off, but I'm doing it to help you drill. I will ask you the exact same question that I asked the last person quite often. That's not unusual. So I'm not doing that. I'm doing that just for repetition. So, because I'm not really trying to test you. That's not my point. My point is to drill you. What is the wrist called, Ms. Cooper? Wrist. Starts with a C. Some people get a condition.
Start with the C.
Some people get a condition, something tunnel.
Carpal?
Yeah! Wrists are your carpal region.
I was going to say carpulary. I was going to make it fancy.
That's fine with me. It's a good start. What am I wiggling right now? What region am I wiggling?
Oh, I was going to say digits, but
Yeah, digits is right. Digital region. Digital region. Cool. What area of my hand is this?
The palmar.
Yeah. What area of my hand is this? The back of my hand. It's the same as the top of my foot. It's
like a dorsey.
Yeah, dorsal. Yep, I love it. Dorsey, dorsal, will take it. Cool. Thank you, ma'am. Who else? Let's see. Miss Nguyen. Hi.
Hi, yeah.
Hi, you're home? We're glad. Good.
I wanna do-
What region is this? It's my thigh. What region is this? Starts with an.
Thigh in the in the femoral.
Yeah.
Femoral.
Yeah, femoral. Femoral, that's fine. Yes.
Yeah.
The femoral region. Beautiful. What's the front of my shin here called? It's hard to say.
I think in the Shuno.
Not Searle. That's the back of it.
Oh, back at that?
The front, you don't want to get kicked here because it would be very cruel to get kicked here.
You think in the Shiruko?
Yeah, cruel. Yes. So it's so hard. I mean, I've been saying it for 25 years. I have a hard time saying it. It's cruel to get kicked in your. It's cruel to get kicked in your cruel. The front of your shin, and the back where your calves are is your sural.
Yeah, sure.
Miss Nguyen, what is the bottom of my feet?
Planta.
Yes, plantar. You said it perfectly too. What's the top of my feet?
Dorsal.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, thank you. That was perfect. I don't know why. Yeah, that's awesome. Let me back this up a little bit so you can see me for a second. Miss Monreal. What's this tummy region? Can you hear me? That's all right. I'm coming back to you. Mr. Kandaris. Oh, wait.
It's abdominal. Sorry.
Awesome. No, don't be sorry. You're fine, sir. Wait a second. Okay. It's abdominal. What's this kind of diagonal little area that cuts my legs off?
Inguinal?
Inguinal,
Oh,
yes.
sorry.
Me
or that?
No, you, Miss Monreal. Sorry. I called on Mr. Kandaris because I thought you would.
Inguinal?
Yes, inguinal. Perfect. What's this little area where the inguinal kind of leads to? And there's a bone here.
Pubic?
Pubic. You nailed it. Awesome. Thank you. That's perfect. Mr. Kandaris? Thank you, sir. What is the back of my knee called? I don't want to get kicked there because it'll kind of pop out my leg. Just make sure it doesn't pop out. The answer might pop out at you.
Popliteal.
Popliteal! And the front of my knee, every gallon fella has a...
Patellar.
Yeah! Thank you. Every gallon fella has a patella is the bone, by the way, but it's the patellar region. You are 100. You answered correctly. Cool. Miss Bilotic, for $1 million, what's the area right above my clavicle? It's superior to my clavicle. This little area right in here.
Super clavicle?
Yeah,
super clavicle? Sorry.
No, it was great. That actually, a doctor would understand what you just said. It is your supraclavicle area, or your or your supraclavicular. Woo! I shouldn't drink when I teach. All right. Okay. Good. I think that's pretty good, everybody. Oh, what are my buns? What are my little guys' buns? What region is that?
The gluteal.
Gluteal. Awesome. Okay. Let's move on to any questions, by the way, so far? You guys are doing great. And please understand our teaching approach here. I think a lot of places, they kind of tell you something and they're like, now you know it, now we're done with it, we're never going to readdress it. Here, we cycle back on it. It's kind of like your lab. You didn't rub the back once in Mystery Bar and said, okay, that's it, we're done with backs. You're going to be rubbing them for 120 days. It's the same thing here with us, is that we're going to layer your education. We're going to circle back on this over and over and over again. We just have to have you familiar with it. I don't want the first time that you've ever heard the word gluteal or femoral or plantar to be right when we're in that area. I want you to have some backstory so that it's familiar, okay? That's what we're doing. So if this hasn't all concretized yet, which is a word, believe it or not, if it hasn't settled in and set in your brain, that's fine. We expect that. We're on day 8 right now, okay? So you're fine. Cool.
I have a comment real quick.
Cool.
On the test, they showed the body, and you have to name it, each individual part. I don't know if anybody else had this issue or came across it, but what was pointing at the lumbar was not called the lumbar.
What was it called?
They called it the sacrum, but it was pointing at the lumbar.
Oh.
Then they also talked about the dorsi being the foot, but the dorsey wasn't flexed upwards, it was just the foot.
Well, the top of the foot is a dorsal region. Could that be what you're talking
Okay,
about?
that's
That part, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, I'll have to go look at the thing.
I mean, I still answered it as dorsey, but I thought it was confusing because I was like, well, we are learning that dorsey means flexing upwards.
Yeah. So let me think of a good way to. Let me think of a way to. So we have the word in the English language vanilla, and you might have vanilla ice cream, right? You might have vanilla cake. You might say somebody's personality is very vanilla, right? It's just kind of, right? We use the word in lots of different ways. And you're going to find the same thing is true with the body. So what I mean by that is your sacral region has your sacrum bone in it. Your patellar region has your patella bone in it. You're gonna find that we name these things and then we name stuff in them very similarly too. Does that make sense? And so you're gonna see lots of this type of stuff, which is good. It's good because it's gonna make life easier on you as the class goes on. You're gonna be like, well, I kind of already know that. We've already kind of done something similar to that, and I know we're in this area, and it's all gonna start to make sense. You're not really in an anatomy course. You're in kind of a Latin language course in a way, right? You're just learning a new language. It's not like you guys didn't know about wrists when you came here. You knew wrists existed. You all had them. You knew where your inguinal area was. You might not have had a name for it, but you knew, right? And you knew that bodies could move their arms back and forth like this out to the side. You even had a way of talking about it. You said, I'm moving my arm out to the side. And we all understood you. And all I did was come along and say, no, we're not talking English anymore. You know? Now we're going to call this movement that you've been calling moving your arm out to the side abduction. Oh, we're not going to call this an arm anymore. We're going to call it a brachia or a brachial. That kind of stuff. But really what I did was I didn't teach you anything new except new words. Basically. So yeah, you're going to find a lot of those new words show up over and over again. Let me give you an example of this that's really helpful. So my upper arm is called the brachial region. Cool? My biceps, actually, that's not the full word for this muscle. The full word for this muscle is biceps brachii. That's the name of your biceps brachii, and it's called that because it's a two-headed muscle in the brachial region. There's a muscle underneath it in the brachial region called, wait for it, brachialis. So the brachial region has the biceps brachii in it, the brachialis in it. You don't want to break it. And later today we're going to learn about nerves and veins that come down there, and guess what we call them? That's the brachial nerve that's going through the brachial region. So really, we're going to use these words over and over again, which is a good thing. You won't find it confusing in the end. You'll find it makes it easier. So right now it's been hard because you're learning all this new language stuff because I had to give you enough to put together a sentence, if that makes sense. Cool? Thank you, by the way, Ms. Petrie, for stimulating that conversation. All right, let's, any other questions? No? Let us, hold on. Let's see if I can't present my slideshow to you. Okay. All right. Cool. And let's see. All right, can you all see this confusing slide with a skeleton on it? Okay. I want to kind of go over the systems of the body with you all. And I need to kind of give you like an overarching picture of what we're about to attempt to do. Not because it's so hard, but because I don't want you to just become vessels that have facts in them. I really want you to understand an overarching principle. So the human body, your body, my body, is absolutely miraculous and extremely, extremely complex. We have not even discovered all the muscles in the human body. And this is a body that we've been dissecting, for 100 years. And we can put a man on the moon or a woman, and we still really understand very little about how bodies function, because they're absolutely amazing and they're very, very complex. In fact, with this coronavirus, one of the things they're talking about doing is just taking some plasma out of people who've already caught the coronavirus, because we know that they've built an immunity to it, and injecting it into other people because it will give them an immunity. We've done this type of thing before. The reason I bring that up is because we don't know what to do with the virus. We don't really know how the body does that, but we just know we could give some good stuff from the person who got it to another person, give them some of that good stuff, and it would help them. Because we don't really understand that much about the body. We really don't. If you think about it, even in surgery and things like that, what we figured out is we're like, oh, we'll go in there and cut that and sew that back up. But a 4-year-old could come up with that concept, at least the concept. We have a lot to learn. So I tell you all that to make this point. When we say things like systems of the body, it's because somebody like me, much smarter than me, came along and said, in order to understand this body, I'm going to break it up into certain systems. And then we teach them to students like you, and you start to think these systems are isolated. You start to think like, oh, the skeletal system is just kind of on its own, and we put it together with the muscular system and the and these other systems, and they all just kind of work together like a team, like maybe we do as a class. No, 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 no. In some ways, they're arbitrary separations. We're going to find out that the skeletal system is very much a part of the circulatory system, part of it. And we're going to find, as this course goes on, that we've chopped up a lot of things for understanding, but it's actually very hard to chop up the human body. So I'm going to talk to you about systems of the body and some very basic things, just so we have a way, again, to communicate. But I am oversimplifying today, and I could be the most brilliant person in the world and I'd still be oversimplifying. It's challenging to talk about the miracle of the body. Okay, and I hope that'll make more sense as we continue on this. Okay, let's talk about the skeletal system. So your skeletal system is composed of bones, yeah? And bones have all sorts of wonderful properties about them. But the one that we really care about a lot as massage therapists is the bones are the levers to your body, which, by the way, bones are the levers to your body, which, by the way, is the answer for how you push when muscles can only pull. If I can only pull down on this, right? I'm a muscle, I can only pull down on this. But when I pull down on this, what happens? It's a lever. What happens to the top part of it? I'm going down and pulling. It's going up and pushing. When I push out, it's because muscles behind my arm are pulling. The answer to why you could push when all your muscles can do is pull is levers. Your muscles are pulling on the bones of your body as levers. And those levers make you move. And your bones are these beautiful levers. You've got tiny little levers, you've got bigger levers, and you've got like your thigh bone, which is the biggest lever in your body. And they're amazing. So, of course we care about that because, hold on one second. Okay. Ms. Torres, you didn't fall asleep, did you? All right, I see you now. You were frozen like this, and I was like, oh my God. When we learn about kinesiology later, about how you move, we're going to care about muscles and bones a lot. We're going to care about what muscles are pulling and on what levers. And your skeletal system is the levers of your body. To further understand and deal with the skeletal system, we break it into two big parts. Your axillary skeletal system and your appendicular skeletal system. So let me turn this down so you guys see. So your axillary skeletal system, kind of like axle, like axis, like in the center, in this slide is shown in red. It's your head and your spine and your ribs. It's kind of the center core of your body. It's the axis around which every other thing attaches. And that's your axial skeletal system. And in this slide, it's red. It's not always going to be red. They're just doing that to show you what the axial skeletal system is. It's in red. If you've ever heard the term your appendages, which happens to be your arms, legs, fingers, toes, your appendages are part of your appendicular skeletal system. They're your arms and legs that hang off your axial skeletal system. They're the same darn bones, by the way. It's just a way of talking about them and dealing with them. Your axial skeletal system, your head and your ribs and your spine on down here, that kind of carries around your organs and your brain, all that kind of stuff. And then all the appendages come off, and they're kind of the moving parts. Not that your axial doesn't move too, but they're the parts that let you grab stuff and that let you walk around with your legs and all that kind of stuff. So you've got an axial skeletal system and an appendicular skeletal system. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, looking for no. Okay, good. And they're only white and red in this slide just for convenience. Cool. So, pound for pound, bones are stronger than steel. Think about that for a second. Pound for pound, bones are stronger than steel. And the only bones that you've probably seen, I hope, are dead bones. You've seen bones outside of a body, maybe in the desert when you're hiking around and there's some animal out there, right? You see dead bones and stuff like that. But bones aren't these just white, dead pieces of rock inside you. They're living things. They really are living things. Bones are living things. They're made up of calcium and phosphorus inside a fascial network. Remember how I said fascia is everything? Did any of you get to play with plaster of Paris when you were kids, maybe in art school?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. Plaster of Paris, it's like, it's plaster that you got to like form into stuff and it would harden in art class or something. It's concrete. Yeah. Well, if you took a pair of pantyhose or something like that and you filled it with concrete, the pantyhose would kind of be the fascia and the concrete would be the calcium and the phosphorus. And believe it or not, it would all weave together and you'd have extra strong concrete because, believe it or not, the pantyhose would kind of act like rebar and actually give extra strength to it. When you break a bone and it grows back together, the fascial network grows first, and then it fills in with calcium and phosphorus and hardens. It's kind of amazing. A lot of your test that you have till Tuesday at 8 a.m. to finish, 4 days, but please don't wait till Tuesday at 7:45, will be just, I believe, just the test will just be you looking at your book and them saying, what is this bone here? And you'll look at your book and say, it's the scapula, it's the pelvis, it's the sacrum, it's the whatever. We're trying to get you familiar with bones. You do not need to memorize them yet because we will be memorizing them together in small bits, but we want to give you an overview. And so some of this will be open book where you're just filling in a test to make sure that you've at least thought of where the femur is, thought of where the patella is, all that kind of stuff. There will not be lots of questions, besides like label this body part on this test that you've got. There will be a couple, but not a lot. Just want to kind of get you prepared for what's coming up. So you will use these pictures later in your book to take your test. I'm not going to go over all the bones of the body with you right now because actually come next week, the The first section we're going through is shoulders. And we're going to go through every little bone in there together. And you're going to know them like the back of your hand. Trust me. Trust me. I said your bones are living. I'm just kind of giving you some backstory. I don't think you're going to get tested on this, actually. Some backstory so that when we get to an actual section on bones or whatever, you've got a little bit of an understanding. Your bones are actually constantly changing, and all of our bones are different. And what I mean by that is, depending on your lifestyle and your activities, your bones are constantly being eaten down by osteoblasts actually, and built back up. And the reason is that they change. So if you're somebody who's a runner, you might actually have thicker leg bones than somebody who's not a runner. Because your body is actually responding to the stress that you create on it and building up stronger bones in that area. It's kind of cool. So your bones are the levers of your body, and the levers can actually change in strength depending on how often you use them. It's kind of neat. By the way, babies are born with 300 bones, and all of you only have 206. Where did the 94 bones go that you had when you were a child? Yes, Ms. Cooper?
Didn't they like fuse together as you grew?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. They fused together when you grew. They were cartilage between them, and you were very spongy, and they fused together as you grew.
My little kids and babies are so soft.
Actually, it's a lot my little babies.
Like, I have a 2.5-year-old brother. He's just so squishy.
He is squishy. Yeah, he's got 300 little bones and there's a lot of cartilage. Why would Mother Nature, God, whatever, make little babies like that?
Like protection?
Yeah. Yeah, squishy is actually a big advantage. It's not an advantage to strength, but it's an advantage to protection. So if I'm squishy, I'll never forget my son once when he was really, really, really little. He was running down the hallway, and it's tile in my house, and he tripped and he didn't get his hands out, and he went bam! And I was literally sitting in the chair, and I was so stunned, I was like, well, he's dead. I mean, I was just like, there's no way. And he kind of bounced and popped back up and ran off again. And I was just like, I don't understand. Like, if I would have fallen like that, I would have broken my skull, my hip, everything. Everything. But he was squishy, and he bounced. And squishy is really helpful.
Why does the body stay like that then?
Thank you. So, because it's not very helpful to being strong. If muscle attaches to levers, and the levers are squishy, then when you pull on the lever bends instead of moving something. So little kids are squishy, which is good, but they're weak. Adults are rigid. We break easier, but we can also pick up little kids. So you're always making a trade-off in life, right? So squishy is great when you're little. It's great for birth, by the way, for one thing, but it's great when you're little. But as you get older and you need to carry things or run really, really fast away from lions or whatever, rigidness actually really helps. You want those bones to form in and get solid. That's why. It's an excellent example of how Mother Nature kind of compensates for all the stages in our life. Yeah. These are, by the way, a lot of this stuff that I put on this slide are fun facts. They're not things you're going to be tested on. Your hands having 29 bones. You've actually got 3 bones in each of these 4 fingers and 2 in your thumb, right? So that's 12, 13, 14 bones right there. You've got 5 more in your hands. That's 19. You've got 8 in your wrist. That's 27. And there's 2 more bones in the hand that I didn't list that are very tiny. And if you can figure those out, come tell me sometime. If not, we'll get to it when we get to hands. You also have 1 bone in the body that's not attached to any other bone in the body. And that's your hyoid bone. It's not your Adam's apple, by the way, but it's right in your throat here, and it's this little horseshoe-shaped bone. Just a little bit of bone trivia. And we will talk about the hyoid later, too. It's going to be a while, but we're going to get to it. It's actually very fascinating. The most common bone disease is osteoporosis. It's characterized by you losing bone density, and then your bones break easier. So it's a big problem. It's related to three things, by the way, just so you know. It's related to genetics. So if you have a particular type of genetics, you're more predisposed to it. It doesn't mean you're going to get it. Diet and exercise. So if your diet doesn't have calcium in it, that's a problem. But believe it or not, taking calcium supplements doesn't do you any good if you don't exercise, because your body has to feel stress on the bones to think that it needs to take calcium into the bones. Your body is very intelligent. And if you're not sending it the signal that it needs to make the bones thicker, it'll be like, I don't need this calcium. This guy sits all day long. Like, we don't need thicker bones. And I can take all calcium all day long and not build up any bone density. But if I take calcium and then walk around or lift weights or jump around, my body starts going, oh, well, there's stress on the bones and we got calcium here. Let's pack it in there. It's very clever. Oh. I feel like we just went way past what I wanted to go past. Bear with me. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So the other thing that's not on this slide that I thought was, is your long bones also produce your red and white blood cells inside your bones. And then they come out through the bones, and that's where you get your blood from. So think about this for a second. This is like me telling you the steel girders that make up this building, because your bones are pound for pound as strong as steel, right? And they hold you up. It's like me telling you the steel girders in this building change how dense and how thick they are depending on the stresses on the building, and they produce orange juice. So your bones provide rigid levers for you. The levers change in strength and size depending on what you need, and they make your blood. And they make your red blood, which is part of your circulatory system, and they make your white blood cells, which are part of your defense system. So is the skeletal system part of the circulatory system? I mean, you can't have a circulatory system if you don't have blood. Or is it part of the defense system? Because you can't have a defense system without white blood cells. Of course, you can't have bones if you don't have blood either, and a circulatory system to get blood to the bones, because then the bones die. Of course, if you're invaded by a foreign invader, you die too, and you can't have bones or a circulatory system. Of course, you can't get the white blood cells around the body without circulatory system. You can't get them unless you get them from the skeletal system. And you need a defense system to utilize all that. There aren't really any systems to the body, that's my point. We're dividing it up to help us understand. They're all intimately interconnected. Intimately interconnected. We just took all the bones out because it's an easy way to talk about them. Cool? Does that make sense? Is it blowing your mind on this Thursday? Maybe a little bit? A little something? All right, throw me a bone here, people. All right. Let's talk about joints. Bones are no good unless they move, right? I couldn't do this with my finger if it didn't have joints. You've actually got three types of joints in your body. We're mostly going to be dealing with synovial joints, but let me give you examples of the other two just so you've heard it before. Again, I think your test over the weekend is really going to be them asking you about these pictures, like what's a ball and socket? And you'll be able to be like, a ball and socket is this joint that moves in every plane. But I want to give you kind of an overview of stuff. So, you've got three main types of joints. I know this picture is showing 6. This is 6 types of one of those 3 types. So you've got 3 types of joints, and one of those types has 6 types. The 3 types of joints are fibrous, cartilaginous, and synovial. This slide is showing 6 types of synovial joints. I hope that makes sense. Let me talk to you really briefly about fibrous and cartilaginous joints. Fibrous joints don't have a joint capsule around them, anything like that, and they're just like they sound, they're fibrous, and they barely move. People say they don't move at all, and so I wrote the no movement on this slide, but actually they do move a little bit. They just don't move like we think. A really good example of where you all have fibrous joints are up in your skull. When you were a baby, if you've all held a baby, you're very careful not to push on the top of its head because it doesn't have bone there right now. You can push into its brain. Eventually, what happens is your bones come together and they lock up with cartilage. Cartilage is like the gristle in meat that you eat, like the really, really chewy stuff, and they lock up with that. That's a fibrous joint. It's 2 things coming together and they're joined, so it's a joint. The reason I say it moves a little bit is, believe it or not, your skull will flex a little bit, and that's a good thing, because things that don't flex break. So if you get hit really hard in the noggin, your skull flexes a little bit, and that's good. So that's a fibrous joint. It's a fibrous joint. And I just want you to hear about this. Cartilaginous joints, let me show you what cartilaginous joints are. Hold on, because the best example I have right here is on our skeleton. Boop. Yep, there. The discs between your vertebrae are cartilaginous joints. The discs between your vertebrae are cartilaginous joints. And they don't move very much. They don't move very much at all. So how can I do this? How can I bend over if it's a cartilaginous joint and they don't move very much? Somebody. Guess. Make up something.
Fascia?
I like that guess. I like it just because anything that says fascia I like. If a cartilaginous joint can barely move, how can I bend all the way over with my spine? And I'm bending at those joints. No, it's early.
I gave my guess.
Yes, you did. Somebody knew. Throw something at me.
The cartilage.
The cartilage, yes, but the cartilage doesn't move very much. So how can I bend? How can this guy bend all the way over if cartilaginous joints don't bend very much? How can those crazy yoga people like do that thing and touch their back of their heads?
Because they're multiple?
Yes, Miss Torres, yes. Thank you. Because they are multiple, right? They don't need to bend very much. What's happening, I've got 24 vertebrae. That's 24 cartilaginous joints, right? If each one moved 4 degrees, 4 degrees is like that. And if you didn't see my finger move, it's because 4 degrees is only like that. But 4 times 24 is 84 degrees. It's all the way over. So when you bend, you're bending a tiny bit at every single vertebrae. That's exactly right. There's multiple ones. Yes. Tell Allison that you nailed it again. Stores. Okay. Very good. So we've got fibrous joints in our head. We're not going to talk about those very much because we will massage heads, but we can't move those joints around very much. We've got cartilaginous joints in our spine. We really care about those, but you can't actually touch them. They're actually on the inside of your spine. You'd have to kill somebody to get to them, to get to the discs in their back. We just care about them because of the way they move. The rest of the joints in your body pretty much are synovial joints. The joints that we're going to be dealing with are synovial joints. And what makes a synovial joint is it's got lots of movement at one place. So this one joint right here on my finger can move, I don't know, 45 degrees at least. And that's not even a great synovial joint. And I bet you some of yours can move 90. at one little joint. So they have lots of movement, and they have a joint capsule. This is important. Hold on, everybody. I drew this for you once before, but I know how much you love my artwork, so. Can you guys see the board? Bones really don't look like this, but I just love it as a representation of a bone. When two bones come together, they've got some cartilage around them. Does not make them a cartilaginous joint, but they've got some cartilage around them to kind of protect them. But if they're a synovial joint, which they probably are, because all the joints we're going to learn about are synovial, they've got a big balloon sac around them, sealing up the whole thing. It's kind of made out of like ligament-like material. It's made out of fascia. And it's full of synovial fluid. And it keeps that joint oiled and lubricated. And that's a synovial joint. A synovial joint has a synovial membrane around it, which is full of synovial fluid. And we will learn about those more too. But that's what makes a synovial joint, and they can move a lot. They can move a lot. So you've got lots of different types of synovial joints, and the reason we care about that is because they tell you what the joint can do. So if you look at the hinge joint up there, what does it say underneath that the hinge joint can do? Anybody who hasn't answered me yet? Flexion and extension. Yeah? So let me give you examples of hinge joints. Your elbow is a hinge joint. When it moves, it's in front and behind, so that's flexion and extension, right? Flexion and extension. Your knee is a hinge joint. What does it do? Flexion and extension. Cool? The point is that my elbow can only go these two directions. It actually can't go off to the side. In order to go off to the side, my whole arm has to go off to the side. But the elbow joint acts just like a hinge. That's all it does, just like a door. Door only opens and closes. It doesn't move up and down or spin around or anything fancy like that. At least my doors don't. It's a hinge joint. It only moves in that one plane. Now, we have some joints that move really well in lots of directions. They can do circumduction. They can move in every plane. Can somebody who hasn't answered me yet tell me what joint can move in every plane? Ball and socket. Yes. And let me give you two examples of ball and socket joints. And let me think for a second here. They're the only two examples I can think of. Your hips and your shoulders. Your hips are actually a real ball and socket, by the way. Your hips actually have a socket and a ball that goes in them. Literally. If you've ever watched a hip replacement, they cut off the head of the femur, they put a new ball in there, they put a new socket in, they get it to move around. But ball and socket are neat because you can go all around, just like my shoulders. That's a ball and socket joint. They can do all sorts of stuff. They can flex and they can extend, but they can abduct and adduct. They can rotate medially and laterally. They can circumduct, which is why you see people do amazing things with their legs and arms. Cool? Very, very different than a hinge joint. What's so cool about my shoulders, by the way, which we're going to be studying shoulders next week, is one of the cool things, by the way, because there's a lot of cool things. My elbow can only do this, but my ball and socket here can take my elbow all sorts of different places to do this. Which means I can do all sorts of cool stuff, even though my elbow can only do flexion and extension. My ball and socket can take it all over the place to do flexion and extension. Yeah? Yay! Cool. You've got pivot joints. I can only think of one, which is on this slide. I think there is only one in your body. Pivot joints allow me to do this. I realized I can move my torso like that too. I realize our guy can do that too, but he's actually taking those 24 cartilaginous joints and moving each one a little bit to twist. A pivot joint really actually has an axle on it and something spinning around it. And believe it or not, the second vertebrae in your neck has a little thing poking up inside you, and the first vertebrae is kind of like a circle, and it sits down on top of it, and your head rotates around it. It's amazing. And that's a pivot joint. You've literally got something poking up and something rotating around it, back and forth. That's a pivot joint. The only one I can think of is between C1 and C2, which means your first cervical vertebrae and your second cervical vertebrae. Cervical 2 and cervical 1. There's a joint there, and that's cervical 2 has a little thing sticking up, and cervical 1 has this thing going around. And you're not going to get asked that specifically, but I just meant like you don't have to understand the whole thing, but I'm just trying to give you examples of these joints. Cool. Yeah? Yeah. Let's talk, this gets very confusing, but let's talk about your wrist. Let me get the skeleton over here. All right. Here is Mrs. Skeleton. I hope you can all see this. There are several different types of joints in this skeleton. Between the bones here and your carpal bones, between these long bones in your forearm and the little 8 carpal bones, is what they call an ellipsoid joint. And that's because they kind of look like, I don't know, kind of like it would hold an egg. And it kind of lets some of this rocking motion occur. That's an ellipsoid joint. And it means your carpals kind of sit down on this little egg holder of your forearm. It's an example of an ellipsoid joint. Then if you look at the carpals themselves, your wrist bones, or your ankle bones, which are called your tarsals, those are gliding joints. And it really means that all they do is kind of slide around on each other, just like that. Remember, they got a joint capsule around each of them, holding them together, but they just slide like that. But when you've got 8 of them sliding like that, it helps give you even more movement. So I got an ellipsoid joint down here, and I've got gliding joints up here, and I've got even more movement. And then we get to my thumb, and this is amazing. One of your carpal bones is called your trapezium. I don't expect you to remember that. Again, I'm just throwing out stuff to kind of explain other stuff right now. You'll learn about the trapezium later. But the base of my thumb down here, is a saddle joint. And it's just like it sounds. It's got a saddle like this, and it's got another upside down saddle on it like this. And it's kind of cool because this saddle can go this way, and this saddle can go this way. And it's why my thumb can go back and forth, front and back. Because of the saddle joint action. One can go side to side, one can go front to back. That's a saddle joint. It's one of the reasons your thumb can move so much. It's pretty cool. It's happening actually down here. Whoa, sorry, down here. Right between that, your first metacarpal, and I'll explain those terms later, and your trapezium, right down there. So those are different types of synovial joints in your body, and all synovial joints have a joint capsule around them, and those are the type of joints we're going to be talking about, and those are the type of joints that when you put muscles crossing over them and grab on the levers of your body, your skeletal system, create movement. And if it's just a hinge joint, you know the movement's only going to be, like this, and if it's ball and socket, it could be everywhere. That's why we study this stuff. Cool? Yes? Maybe? Sort of? All right. Whew. It's a good thing it's Thursday, huh? All right. Okay. Moving right along. I'm not going to go over all the muscles in this slide. Again, you'll be asked to identify them, I'm pretty sure, in your online test. And it's please, please, please do not think it's because we want you to memorize these at this point. I think it would be impossible. It's because we want you to have heard them and seen them once before we ever talk about them. But let's talk about the muscular system. So the muscular system is responsible for movement in your body, right? Muscles can only do one thing. So, Miss Monreal, what's the one thing? Are you there? Yes, Miss Monreal, what's the one thing muscles can do? Can only do one.
Move your
What?
body, I guess.
Muscles can only do one thing, though. They can only.
Move your body. Moving.
Well, that's true.
Okay. Flex or.
Well, they can extend too. I mean, you're kind of there. What? They can only. There's several words that would be correct.
Contract or?
Yes, they can only contract. They can only shorten. They can only come together.
Shorten?
Yes, all those are correct. Contract, shorten, come together. Good. And when they contract, shorten, or come together, and they're attached to a bone, they create movement. This is my tricep contracting. This is my bicep contracting. Tricep, bicep, tricep, bicep. Thank you very much, ma'am. There are about 320 pairs of muscles in the body. By pairs, we just mean like, I've obviously got a bicep here, I've obviously got one over here, right? So when we learn about the biceps, you're really learning about both biceps, right? So we only have to kind of learn about one side of the body to learn about the other. The reason that there's like 320 pairs and we're only learning about 100 is because about 200 of those muscles are tiny and they're in places that we actually can't reach. So you've got 3 muscles, believe it or not, that are actually in right around your ear that you basically can't reach. You've got like 6 muscles inside your eyeballs, right? You've got some muscles that move your eyelids. You've got all these facial expression muscles that you can reach, but we don't care so much about. You've got muscles inside your pelvis that help maintain your pelvic floor. You've got muscles inside your body that do all sorts of stuff, and that's why we're not learning about those. We're going to learn about the 100 major muscles that are what we call palpatable. You can touch them, or you can affect them. We're going to learn about palpatable muscles, basically. Something to think about when you're kind of taking the test and you're filling in the names and stuff is that muscles are usually named by either their size, their shape, the direction their fibers run, where they're located, or the number of origins they have, or their actions. Can anybody give me an example of a muscle that's named by any of those, by the way? Pick a muscle that's named by its size, or its fiber direction, or its location. Any muscle that might be named by the region that it's in, for example.
The armpit area, axillary?
Yes, but what muscle?
Is that?
I have one.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Torres, what?
Rectus abdominis.
Yes, thank you.
Like your ass.
Yes, so the rectus abdominis is part of the muscle that gives you the 6-pack on your body. It runs up and down your stomach, and it's in the abdominal region. So it's partially named by the fact that it's in the abdominal region, rectus abdominis. It's also actually named by its fiber direction. Rectus means up and down. I wouldn't expect you to know that yet, but the fact is, so the muscle is named the up and down muscle in the abdominal region. rectus abdominis. Great example. Anybody think of a muscle that's named by its size relative to other muscles?
Kind of. Two of them are like, at least I think, the pectoralis minor and pectoralis major.
Beautiful example. So those are named by their size relative to each other, and they're named by their location. They're in the pectoral region, and the big one is called pectoralis major, and the small one is called pectoralis minor, and they're both in the pectoral region. Beautiful examples. So I just wanted you guys to get that kind of idea in your head, so when you're starting to name muscles and you're starting to fill them in, you start to think like, how did this thing get its name? And it's usually because maybe of its location. It's not all the above. Maybe because the direction the fibers run, its size, its shape. Your deltoid, your shoulder muscle, right here off the side of your body, my shoulder muscle. Anybody heard of the Greek letter, the delta? See it on, it's an upside down triangle. That muscle looks like an upside down triangle. It's named by its shape. Your deltoid is named by its shape, a delta. Yeah?
Would adductor longus be the same thing?
Yes.
Longus?
Yes.
I don't know.
No, you do know, Miss Hunter. You nailed it. It's named by two things. Adductor is its action. It's what it does. And it's the longest adductor muscle with the word adductor in it. There are longer ones, but the fact is it is the longest one. There's an adductor brevis, which is brief, short, an adductor magnus, which is big, and an adductor longus, which is the longest of those three. So it's named by its action and its size. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So this will help you later when we're doing muscles. And I will go back over all this again. But again, this is kind of the stuff that I kind of want you to be thinking about at least when you're filling this stuff out. Because otherwise you look at this stuff and you're like, I have no idea what these people were thinking. Right? Good. Those are all great examples. Fantastic. Yep. Let me give you one more just to think about. And it really is just to think about. My biceps. Anybody here ride a bicycle? Yes? Miss? Yes. How many wheels does your bicycle have on it? 2? Yep. What do you suppose the word bi means?
2.
2. Yep, because if you ride a unicycle, that uni means 1. Or a tricycle, tri means 3. So bicep brachii actually means the two-headed muscle in my brachial region. And your bicep actually has 2 parts. It's got 2 origins. And we'll learn about them later. But it's actually a two-headed muscle. It's got 2 parts to it. And that's why it's called the biceps brachii. Seps actually means heads. So it means the two-headed muscle in your brachial region. Biceps brachii. That's where that comes from. Again, you don't need to remember that. I just want you to have been exposed to it. Cool? Yeah? Moving right along. All right. Questions? Comments? Best day of your life ever? Second best day? Okay. Let's see. You have 3 types of muscles. We talked about this a little bit the other day. The ones we are going to be spending almost all of our time with are the skeletal muscles. They are the muscles that attach to your skeleton to move the levers of your body. That's why they're called skeletal muscles. You do have smooth muscles that you will basically never touch because they're inside somebody's body. They surround their blood vessels. They surround your digestive tract. You ever seen that thing where like an x-ray of somebody swallowing food and their muscles squeeze down this pipe? Well, your body does that all day long. It squeezes food down a pipe inside you to move food through your body. That's smooth muscle. We won't be massaging that. You should not stick your fingers down people's throats and massage them. And then your cardiac muscle. There's only one example of your cardiac muscle. Only one place in the body where you find the cardiac muscle. Where is that place?
No, the heart.
Heart.
The heart. Thank you both. Thank you. The heart. Absolutely. That's your cardiac muscle. It pumps all the time. And we're going to get to it in a minute when we get to the circulatory system. But wait, it's a muscle, so it must be the muscular system. But it's in the circulatory system. It circulates blood. But the circulatory system is getting its blood from the skeletal system. Oh, so confusing. All right, cool. So, just so you can think about this, your muscles do all sorts of stuff. They give you mobility. They give you the ability to walk around and move because they're pulling the levers of your body. They give you stability. So as I stand here in front of you, my muscles aren't resting. They're constantly gently pulling me in different directions, very gently, to keep me stable. Hundreds of little muscles. When my muscles are working proper, I have good posture. We are going to care about this a lot as a massage therapist. We care when somebody kind of comes in, they're looking like this. You know, we're not making fun of them, but we're like, there's a problem with this person's posture. This will start to hurt my neck. My head is very heavy. We want to get them back in good posture. Your muscles help with circulation. Not only do you have the heart pumping, but you have smooth muscle around all your arteries and veins, which is fascinating. Because if I'm starting to get cold, one of the first things my body does, believe it or not, is restricts blood to my arms and legs, closes up the veins to keep that warm blood in where my chest is, where my organs are, because if the core of your body drops more than a few degrees, you're dead. My arm can drop 30 degrees and it'll be okay. It'll come back. But if my core of my body, where my lungs, my heart, my stomach, my liver, my kidneys, drops more than a few degrees, I'm dead. And so my body will actually control blood flow by squeezing down on veins, by using muscles that are wrapped around every single bit of vein to open and close veins and arteries to keep your blood flow and keep you the proper temperature. That's why your hands get cold or hot so often. It's your body expelling heat or preserving heat when it needs to. Your muscles operate your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is this mushroom-shaped muscle inside your rib cage that when it contracts, you go and breathe. Which means it's part of your pulmonary system because it moves your lungs. It moves food through your digestive system, so it's part of your digestive system. Muscles absorb shock, by the way. When you walk every time, the muscles in your feet flex. And they kind of fight against gravity every time to protect your bones. Your muscles even create heat. They create about 85% of the heat in your body is by muscles. When you shiver when you're really cold, it's your body activating your muscles to work a little bit to actually generate more heat. Every system is part of every system. Comments? Questions? Yeah? No? Cool. Oh, Tapscott's favorite. The fascial system. 25 years ago, they didn't even teach this, by the way. They didn't really think of the fascial system. But the fascial system is a three-dimensional network of fibers woven through everything in your body, through the bones, through the muscles, through the organs. It helps make you move seamlessly. The reason I don't kind of tick along is my fascial system kind of smooths out all my movements because everything gets pulled onto this woven network. It's absolutely fascinating. You actually have 10 times more sensors in your fascia than in your muscle. So your fascia can get sore. Your fascia is also the thing that gives you a sensation that lets you know you're alive. You can feel your fascia pressing down into the chair you're sitting in right now. My fascia actually lets me know how much my elbow is bending. I don't have to look at my elbow to know where it is. We take this all for granted, but it's actually quite amazing. I know it's at 90 degrees. I know it's over here. I know it's over there because my fascia has sensors in it that tell me how much it's stretched and where it is. Your fascia helps you relate to space and time, really. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Fascia is the reason that you guys can run and jump around and not break bones. Because fascia actually acts as this cushioning system that's in your body. It's a lot of where athletes get their performance from. Yes, muscles get them going, but fascia is what keeps it all together. Helps prevent you from injuring yourself. It's the reason you don't break the tiny bones in your feet every time you take a step is fascia. So, if fascia is so darn important, how come almost nobody knows about fascia? Mr. Kondaris, any ideas? I'm sorry, what, sir? Did you hear the question, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. If fascia is so important, how come almost nobody knows about it? The answer's on the slide, by the way.
Okay. Because it is removed from most anatomic displays in order to allow viewers and obscure the visual organs, nerves, and muscles.
Yes, thank you, sir. Let me explain what that means. When they, can you guys, you see that poster back there? Back of a human body, all the beautiful muscles there. Does everybody see that? Nod your head. Thank you. Okay. That's true in the sense that we all have those muscles. Nobody looks like that. I don't mean nobody's in that good a shape. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you cut into a body right now, it doesn't look like that. There's all this fascia all over the top of the muscles, and you can't see them very well. So guess what they do? They get rid of it. So that you can better see the muscles. And guess what they do so you can see the bones? They get rid of all the fascia too, because it's covering up everything. If you got the sticky network over everything, you can't see stuff very clearly. And if you're fascinated with muscles and you're making a muscle chart, you make sure to get rid of all of it. If you're fascinated with bones, you're making a bone chart, you make sure to get rid of all of it. Does that make sense? Have you ever had a story where somebody tells you a story, usually about how they were wronged, by the way, and they leave out really critical information in the story? They don't lie to you. They tell you the truth about what happened, but they don't tell you the other part of the story. Anybody ever had that happen? Yes. It changes the whole story. You know? So I tell you, my neighbor, hit me in the face, and you're like, oh my God, but what I don't tell you is that I hit him in the face first. That's leaving out a critical part of the story. Fascia is a critical part of the story that gets left out because people want to make the other parts more important, and they didn't think fascia was important, so they scraped it away. They thought muscles were really important because muscles move stuff. They're amazing. And bones are really important because they're really easy to find, and they seem to be these levers and stuff like that. So that was really important, and they are. By the way, they are really important. There's no doubt about that. But they scraped away other stuff because they're like, this stuff's getting in the way of us seeing the muscles. So that's why people haven't heard about fascia. It's woven through everything.
I have a question.
Yes, please. Please, I want a question.
Do you still, I know that this is talking about mostly about drawings and stuff, but I do find that even a lot of people in the medical profession don't even really realize the importance of fascia.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
And they're in the medical profession.
They're in the medical profession, yeah.
Do you find that?
Yes, I do find that. I do find that, and I find that the medical profession is brilliant at some things, but like all professions, including my profession, we're blinded to other things. So massage therapists tend to do this thing where we think everything can be solved by a massage. And I'm here to tell you not everything can be solved with a massage, right? The reason I love massage is very few things are made worse with a massage, but not everything can be solved with it. Surgeons tend to think everything can be solved by cutting it out and sewing it up kind of thing. Anyway, doctors go to a school that studies medicine, that's been studying medicine for 100 years, and it hasn't changed that much. And they might learn new procedures, but they don't learn new approaches. So they might learn a better way to do surgery, but they don't learn about a non-surgical solution. Does that make sense? If you're a surgeon, you go to surgery school, you learn that. And so if fascia wasn't included, fascia doesn't get included. And we hopefully will see, if we can, we'll go to a cadaver lab at some point at GCU. I don't know if they still have a cadaver lab right now, that's the problem. But when we go there, you'll see a body with all the pretty muscles dissected on a real human body. And if you ask the person there, you'll say, like, how much tissue did you scrape off to get to this thing? And it'll be like, they'll tell you like, oh, we removed a couple of garbage bags full of fascia to make it look like this. They remove that because that's not what they're interested in looking at. They're interested in looking at the muscles. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying that changes the story, which is fascinating. And you're absolutely right, Ms. Monreal. It's just not a common thing. Although now they're starting to talk about fascial health a lot. But sometimes people in their own professions, not just doctors, but everybody in their own professions are almost closed-minded to other things that are new. Yeah. But like I said, there's a fascial conference now, a worldwide fascial conference and stuff. It's real. And doctors don't deny its existence. They just don't seem to know much about it or care, right? Well said. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. Does fascia have any like illnesses or like there's some like how do I explain it?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yes, probably.
Is there something?
Yeah. So, yes, you can get problems with your fascia. For one thing, if it's not well hydrated, it will harden a little bit and it gets stiff. And that causes all sorts of problems, just like wearing clothing that's 2 sizes too small for you. That would happen. Because it is a network throughout your whole body, I don't know of a particular like fascial disease, but it could get diseased. Yes, it could. But it can have all sorts of problems. You're absolutely right. In fact, one of the things we're going to do a lot in massage is bear walks are really meant to loosen up fascia. The bear walks you guys are doing before you go into the muscle, which is also wrapped in fascia. And this will all make more sense later. But I don't know of a specific disease to answer your question, but yes, fascia can get diseased. And one of the biggest things also that we discover about fascia is meant to also help support your posture. So if your posture's been bad for a long time, if I've been standing like this for a long time, my fascia is hardened in that direction. And so to fix this person, it's not about tight muscles anymore, it's about tight fascia. And we have to stretch out that really hard saran wrap and get this person back into a new position. Did that kind of answer your question, Ms. Torres? I hope.
So is that what like skin rolling does then? It like loosens up the fascia?
Yeah. It loosens up the superficial fascia or the subcutaneous layer because the other fascia is woven through the muscles and on the bones, which you're going to work on that too, but that's exactly what it does. And it makes a lot of sense. You kind of, if somebody's wearing really tight clothing and wouldn't take it off for your massage, first you'd loosen up their clothing, which is kind of like you loosening up the fascia, and that's exactly what you're doing with skin rolling. And it may not be pleasant, but boy, is it effective. Boy, is it effective for that reason. And when you loosen up all that with the skin rolling, like that, all this blood flow starts flowing underneath the skin better, and it tends to make the muscles underneath that even looser. And some people's pain, by the way, some people's pain is not in their muscles. In fact, there's a lot of argument to say it's rarely in their muscles, just in their muscle. Sometimes their skin is kind of stuck to them in certain places, and it's kind of holding them, and they don't realize that, but you go skin rolling along, and you've unstuck their skin, and they're like, wow, I feel like I have a new suit of skin on. Like that fixes the problem. So great question. Thank you. All great questions. Anybody else? Yeah? Okay. Good. Hang in there, peeps. Weekend's coming. Promise. A lot of massage therapists believe, I would actually agree with this, but I'm just saying it, you don't have to agree with it, that your fascia holds emotional trauma and memory too. A very, very simple example of that would be, let's say that I am somebody who feels very beaten down. And when you feel beaten down, you actually carry yourself like this, right? Well, if I do it long enough, my fascia kind of holds that memory. And so oftentimes when you stretch out that fascia, it kind of brings back up those issues. You know, fixing somebody's body posture also brings up the issues that were associated with their body posture. So it's not a far-fetched idea to say that fascia kind of holds memories. And I bring all this up because whether you agree with it or not, a lot of times clients, you know, start crying during a session, and they're not crying from pain that you've caused them. They're crying, and you'll even ask them, they'll say, I just feel so much relief, or they start processing things that they have not been able to process, right? If you don't process it up here, your body tends to hold on to it for you. It doesn't just go away. So if that ever happens in your massage, I always ask people, you know, are you all right? And then I say, do you want me to continue the massage or just stop? Because most of the time, believe it or not, they say, oh no, continue the massage. And let them cry. It's okay. You don't have to fix it. Don't try to fix it. If they want you to continue the massage, just let them cry. If they say, no, I want you to stop, then I say, okay, that's fine too. Would you like me to sit here with you, or would you like me to leave you alone? Quite often they'll say, just sit with me here for a second. Again, don't try to solve this. Don't try to, you're not qualified for one thing, but don't try to fix it. Just witness it. That may sound like a funny statement to say, but just be there. That's a lot, believe it or not. And when they're ready to start back up the massage again, you start back up again. Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you one more piece of advice too that I'll bring up later. But if they do talk to you, try not to offer too much advice. It's very tempting. We all want to offer advice, but offering advice is like me telling you guys, well, you need to study. Of course you know you need to study. That's not the problem. The problem is you also need to take care of your kids, and you got to take care of yourself, and you don't feel like it today, and today you got a headache, and there's other stuff in your life that you need to deal with in order to do the good advice, right? So advice isn't really that helpful. What's really helpful for people when they're in trauma is to sound back to them what they're telling to you. So when they say, I'm really sad that my dog died, you say, oh wow, that sounds very painful. I can understand why you're really sad that your dog died. I didn't tell you anything. I just sounded back what you said so you could hear it. You know, I just felt like nobody loves me, so you feel very unloved. Yeah, I'm not telling you anything if you think about it. I'm letting you hear what you're saying so you can have a conversation with yourself. I'm tangling way off, but this is a very helpful thing to do for somebody. Let them have a conversation with themselves. Thoughts, questions on that? I'm sorry, fascia took me down that path. Everything's connected. Yeah? No? Yeah. Okay. Cardiovascular system. Yay, cardiovascular system, although I think we jumped past one there. Cardiovascular system. This is the system of one pump and tubing that runs blood around your body, right? So what system did the blood come from, Miss Felix Osuna? It's a tricky question, just the way it sounds. But there's blood in my cardiovascular system, but what system did the blood come from, Miss Felix Osuna?
Is it the aorta?
No, that's good. By the way, the blood does run through that. There's another system in your body that makes blood. Blood actually doesn't come from the cardiovascular system. It comes from, there's something in your body that makes blood. Do you know what it is? It's okay. It's okay if you don't, by the way. I'm not trying to test you. I'm trying to make sure you guys are awake. That's all I'm trying to do.
Is it, the ball?
Your name's not...
Cardiovascular system?
Your cardiovascular system gets its blood from bones. Absolutely. Thank
How
you.
about head?
What?
How about head?
How does that happen?
No, I say how about head?
I don't understand you. Miss Nguyen?
Oh, I write for you.
What? Are you typing? All right, hold on. How about the heart? Well, the heart is what pumps blood around, right? So the heart is the pump. It pumps blood around, but the blood actually was made inside a bone. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand now.
Yes. And what's
Thank
the...
you.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, and what's the heart made out of? What kind of tissue? Anybody? Don't overthink it. The heart is a what?
Muscle.
Muscle. So the heart, yes, the heart is part of the muscular system. The blood comes from the skeletal system. And they all help the cardiovascular system pump blood around. By the way, the blood carries nutrients to the skeletal system, to its own heart, to all the other systems. Again, I'm just trying to beat this point into the ground that all the systems aren't really separate, they're all connected. We just made them systems to understand them. And I'm trying to make that point really big because there's a fascial system that got left out at one point because everybody divided everything up. So you can't really divide something up and understand it, right? I can't just stand you alone in a room and figure you out. I need to know about your life and about the people you love and all the other things going on in it. You can't separate them out, right? Cool. Thank you. All right.
Unless you're like Sherlock Holmes or something.
Yes. So cardiovascular system is your heart at the center. It is a 4-chamber pump. Don't worry, we're going to learn about the heart later. I just think this is kind of cool. It's about the size of my fist. That's not very big, right? And that little pump pumps blood out through your aorta, which is about the size of a garden hose. It pumps 5 pints of blood every minute. It's amazing. It's a 4-chamber pump, by the way, because the top chambers are what we call priming pumps. They actually pump blood into the lower chambers to make sure they get a really good pump every time they pump. But that's not important. You have enough veins and arteries that if we stretched them out on end, they could wrap around the earth more than twice. So, arteries carry blood away from the heart. Usually it's oxygen-rich blood. There is one example where this is not true. And oxygen-rich blood tends to look red. Veins carry blood back to the heart after your cells have taken all the oxygen out of them. And veins come back and veins look blue because of the way the light reflects through the veins and stuff like that. But actually the blood in them is dark red. But dark red ends up looking like blue from the outside of your body. Anyway, so red blood goes out, blue blood comes back. Red blood's in arteries, blue blood's in veins. Not all the time, but most of the time. There's one tiny exception that's not that important right now. And blood is life. Blood is life. Parts of your body that do not get blood die. When somebody has a stroke, it's blood not getting to their brain, right? That's why when you cut yourself majorly, it's a big problem, because if you run out of blood, you die. It's the thing that gives your cells, by the way, the cells in your body are little yous. They need all the stuff you need. They literally need food. Now, you've already chewed up the food and made it into tiny little tiny little hamburgers for them, right? But they need food. They need oxygen, and they have to breathe out CO2 just like you. They need everything you need, and if you don't get stuff to them, and the way you get stuff to them is through your arteries, and you don't pick their waste up through your veins and get it back, they die. That's how it happens. Boom. That simple. Okay. Good answers, everybody. Boom. Veins carry blood back to the heart, right? Because once the blood's been used up by the cells and stuff like that, it's got to come back to the heart to get more oxygen, get more nutrients in it, all that kind of stuff. Where your capillaries, where your arteries and your veins meet are these tiny little vessels called capillaries. And again, you don't need to know all this, not yet. We're going to study an entire chapter on this, but your capillaries are tiny, tiny, thin arteries or veins. It doesn't matter, it's where they meet. They're so thin that blood leaks out of them and old blood leaks back into them, and that they're made that way on purpose. And they're kind of watering your body. They're watering the cells of your body so your cells can pick up what they need. Your cells actually exist kind of in this plasma medium where they pick up nutrients they need and get rid of stuff they don't. Your body feeds that, and just like you water a garden. Your blood waters your garden. Questions? Comments? Thoughts? No? Just overview stuff. I will say though, again, you're not probably going to get tested on what I just told you. You're probably going to get tested on the veins. And you're going to have to look at this picture. I would have to look at this picture. But I do want you to notice some stuff up here. The vein that's by your armpit is called your what? On this slide. On the left-hand side, right-hand side.
Axillary.
Axillary. It's in your armpit, and it's called the axillary vein. The vein coming down your arm is called the brachial vein. So that's by the way, that's all I remember. I couldn't name every vein and artery in your body. There's no way. But I do know, like, people will be like, oh, what's this vein? I'm like, well, it's probably the brachial vein because it's in there. What's this artery? The brachial artery. That's all we're really trying to get into your head through all this right now. I actually don't want you to memorize every vein in the body. I think it's a waste of your time. But we want you to kind of realize how they're named, right? So the veins on top of your foot have the word dorsal in them because that's the word for on top of your foot, right? Does that make sense? I hope? Good. But I expect you to use your book for this part. I expect you to use your book for this part. I think you'd be nuts if you didn't. I would use your book for this part. Nervous system. The nervous system is the telephone system for your body. It lets your brain talk to your body, and your body send back information to your brain. That is 100% true. It is an electrical wiring system in your body that sends information back and forth. You cannot feel something unless there is a wire going to it. I mean, I know these are living wires, they're made out of flesh, but they really do carry electricity, and you cannot feel something. If we sever your nerve to that area, you will no longer have pain in that area. You might have phantom pain because that nerve's severed, but you will not be able to feel that. I have a friend who is paralyzed from the chest down, and one of the biggest things that she has to be careful of is that she doesn't cut her leg wheeling her wheelchair around, because she will not feel any pain at all. You can take a chainsaw to her leg and she will not feel any pain. So if she cuts her leg fairly severely, like wheeling her chair by something, she won't feel any pain and she'll be bleeding to death and she won't know it. And she'll just feel sleepy and go to sleep. That's it. You have to have this nerve connection. My muscles cannot move without a nerve going to the muscle and telling it to contract. And not just one nerve, by the way. Your body's got all sorts of nerves going to it because sometimes it tells it to contract just a couple of fibers, and sometimes it tells it to contract thousands of fibers. So if I'm holding something light like this, I don't want to contract all my fibers. I don't want to be like, I want to just contract a couple of tiny fibers in my bicep to lift this up. If all of a sudden I'm holding something really heavy, like a 50-pound weight, then I contract all my fibers to lift something up. But that's how your body works. It turns on certain fibers and other ones, and I have to have wires going to all those to make that happen. So this picture shows all these beautiful yellow wires. Those are just the main ones. Off of those are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of other wires. Remember, if I can feel it, there's a wire going to it. And it's a different wire when I go over here, I'm half a millimeter, there's another wire. They're everywhere. If you can feel it, there's a wire going to it. If you can control it, there's a wire going to it. Your nervous system does that for you. Your nervous system also gives you feedback. It lets me know if the room's hot, cold, am I pressing on stuff? Is stuff poking me, pulling me? All that is sensory information that goes back to your brain. That's your nervous system. And there's an interesting statement on this slide. It says, the brain interprets these sensory cues to understand what's going on in the world around it. Something to think about. When I touch my finger, my brain has learned that this electrical pulse means touch. All my brain is getting when I do this, or that, is it gets dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee in my brain. I have learned that dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee means something pretty bad. And I have learned that this dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee means something pretty good. This is extremely important because people interpret pain differently depending on their relationship to those sensations. I've been getting deep tissue massage for years. I associate deep tissue pain with relief, so it doesn't feel like pain to me anymore. It feels like something good. Somebody who's been abused might associate deep tissue pain with abuse. They don't have a healing memory of that kind of sensation. They have a hurting memory, an emotionally hurting memory of that kind of sensation. So their brain actually says, oh my God, this is severe. My brain says, this is therapeutic. Pain doesn't exist. I don't mean it's not important. It is just a signal. Everything is just a signal, and your brain learns to interpret what signals mean what and what to do with that information. We will get to more of that later, but it's something to chew on. Lots of stuff to chew on here. We will also get to this later. I will tell it to you again later because I don't expect you guys to remember from today at all. But this is super helpful. You're going to have to name these nerves, right? And by the way, the one in the armpit is still called the axillary nerve, which is where you find the axillary vein, which is where you find the axillary artery, which is where you find the axillary region. But again, I don't expect you to remember all these nerves later, and we're not going to teach them to you later, every last one. There's no point. I will tell you this, though, that's super duper helpful, super duper helpful. The nerve plexes, which are the sets of nerves that come out of your spine all the way down. That nerve plexes, groups of nerves that come out of your spine, because they all have to get back to the spine to get up to your head. The nerve plexes that come out of your neck tend to feed your arms and your head. So when I touch something on my hand, it runs up my arm and into my neck and up into my head. The nerve plexes down at my sacrum, all the way down to my butt, believe it or not, tend to, let me give you guys a better example. The nerve plexes down here, believe it or not, wrap around here and tend to go down the front of my leg. Sorry, that's my low back. Low back tends to go around here and down the front of my leg. My sacrum tends to go down the back of my leg. Why is this important? If I have a sore neck and it's really, really tight, I might get tingling and numbness down my arm. If I have a sore low back, I might get tingling and numbness down the front of my leg. If I've got tension over my sacrum, I might get numbness and tingling down the back of my leg. It is a way to very simply remember where a whole lot of nerves go. I don't memorize my nerves. I'm way too lazy. what I do is I know where they go. So if you've got tingling and numbness in your arm and you come to me, I think to myself, you might actually have problems in your arm. You might be having a heart attack for one thing, but I'm not too worried about that. But you might actually have a problem in your arm. But I'm also smart enough to know all the nerves from your arm go up to your neck. So I'm also going to massage your neck. If you've got tingling and numbness and you come to me in the front of your leg, I'm going to say, well, it might be your leg, but it also might be your lumbar region because that's where those nerves go. So I know what part of the spine to work on. So the cervical plexus, the neck stuff, feeds the head and arms. The thoracic plexus, which is your thoracic region, just feeds the thoracic region. The lumbar plexes, from that part of your spine, feed the front of the thighs and legs. The sacral plexes, even lower down the spine, feed the back of the legs. It's just a very handy thing to know. And I will explain all that again later, but I want you to hear it now first. It's important enough. It's one of the most important things I can tell you about the nervous system, actually, for use as a massage therapist. We are almost done, by the way. I mean, we are really almost done. By the way, real quick question about the nervous system. Can muscles fire without the nervous system? Can they contract without the nervous system? Thank you, Ms. Yanez. Basically, they cannot. By the way, your heart muscle is an exception. Your heart muscle can actually fire itself, but even that, the nervous system tells how fast for it to beat. But the fact is you can't do it, yeah. The nervous system tells your muscles how to respond, and so it's also the thing that tells you what you're feeling from the outside to know if your muscles should have to move in the first place. It's the thing that allows your eyes to see and move your eyeballs around to look at other stuff. That's the nervous system working with the muscular system. So again, everything's tied together. That's all I'm trying to say. I could go on and on about that. I won't bore you right now. The lymphatic system. The lymphatic system, I say, is the bulk garbage collectors of the body. Let me explain what that means. This is the last system we're doing, I think. Let me explain what that means. Okay. I think in your test, your online test, you're just going to have to label some of this stuff. So that's fine. That's all we want you to know about the lymphatic system right now. Later, we're going to study it. We just want an overview. We wanted to give you all this stuff so that when I said skeletal system, you're like, oh, the bones. Muscular system, oh, muscles. I mean, we just wanted you to be able to put some stuff together, right? This is overview before we really narrow down. And actually, we're going to start narrowing down next week. Next week, we're going to be studying just the shoulders. You're going to love it. I want to explain why I call the lymphatic system the bulk garbage collectors for your body. So, up here, you've got a 4-chambered pump in your body. Who can tell me what that 4-chambered pump is in your body?
The heart?
The heart. Thank you so much. Out of that heart, actually out of the left ventricle, you've got this tube, or you've got lots of tubes, that look red because they're full of oxygen-rich blood. What are these tubes called? Somebody else. Tubes going away from... What? Somebody else, though. No, but hold that thought. What are the tubes going away from the heart full of oxygen-rich blood called? Anybody? Somebody. Somebody new.
The veins?
Wait, who said arteries? Arteries is correct. We're going to get to veins in just a second. Arteries carry this oxygen-rich blood away from the heart, down to your cells, down to these little adorable cells that are dying to breathe, dying to eat, all that kind of stuff. Once the cells eat all the good, delicious stuff, this other tube goes back to the heart. What do you call tubes going back to the heart that are blue or dark red because they have no oxygen in them? Somebody knew. What? Veins. Yes. Veins. Okay. Well, and what are the little things at the end of arteries and veins that kind of connect them and let blood leak in and out of them? Anybody remember?
Capillaries.
Capillaries. Yes, thank you. Okay, well, capillaries are really, really tiny. They're really, really tiny, and they're great for letting blood leak out of them, and which feeds these cells. But the cells produce waste, believe it or not. They kind of poo and peep. They kind of pee and poop. They kind of pee and poop. And the veins are really good at picking up the pee. It's tiny. You're right? But they're not so good at picking up the big poop because it's too big to get back in the capillaries and get back up to the heart. So some of the waste product of these cells cannot get picked back up into the capillaries and back up to the veins and back up into the heart. So the problem with that is that you would eventually swell and explode if this liquid and this debris just stayed down there all throughout your body. But it's too big to get back in the capillaries and get back up to your heart. Plus, it's kind of dirty, some of it. And I don't mean like it's bad, like you ate nachos last night and you shouldn't have, or what. No, it's bigger debris that your cells are producing. It can be bad sometimes if you have an infection or something like that. It can be that stuff too. But it's got to get cleaned up and get sent back to the heart eventually. Your lymphatic system, one of the main things it does is pick that up. Your lymphatic system has its own vessels. They're called lymphatic vessels. And they're bigger. They're bigger than veins and arteries. Well, they're bigger than capillaries, the end parts of them. And they can pick up, we've got one-way valves in them too. They can pick up the really dirty stuff your cells left out of there. And by the way, on the way back up to the heart, these lymph vessels go through these little pea-shaped little things on the way back up. You've got thousands of them. And they're called lymph nodes. And each one of those is an area full of white blood cells and full of stuff to clean up that debris and make it all nice and crystal clean. And when it gets all done, it actually dumps it back into the heart. 10% of everything you're pumping out right now does not get back to the heart by a vein. It gets back to your heart by your lymphatic system. 10%. So, your heart actually is only pumping about 90% of stuff back up to itself. The other 10% gets picked up by the lymphatic system. So is the lymphatic system part of the circulatory system? Since it helps make it work. Anybody?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. Lymphatic system is part of the circulatory system. Thank you very much. Because it helps the circulatory system get back all the blood finally. Hey, the lymphatic system also cleans up that blood and has white blood cells in the little lymph nodes to fight foreign infections. So is it part of your defense mechanism? Your defense system? Yes, it is. It's part of that too. Hey, it got the white blood cells from your skeletal system. That's weird. So it too is related to all these other things. I could tell you about 37 other relations, by the way, but it gets boring after a while. So your lymphatic system, people actually have a hard time characterizing it because it does work with the circulatory system. It is part of your defense system of your body, but it's also just its own system that seems to help pick up the debris in your body and things like that. And they say if it stopped working, you'd be dead in 24 to 48 hours. That's probably true, but that's true of everything in your body. I mean, it all needs to be working pretty well. If you're ever having a bad day, just remember that there's literally like 400 million things working right in your body for you to be standing there. It's amazing. Most of your life is actually going very well for you. You would know if it wasn't. 99.99999% of your body's working all the time. Quite well. But it is part of your defense system or your immune system, which is a whole other system of things that help keep nasty stuff out of you. Actually help keep, nasty stuff out of you. Cool? Okay. Blank slide. That's good news. Hold on, let's. Okay. Yes, Miss Hunter, nicely said and well deserved. Let's take a break right now. Let's take a break right now, everybody, and we will pick up from there. I'll tell you what, let's take a 10-minute break right now. I'll see you back here. Thank you for asking so politely. I'll see you all back here at 11-minute break, 10:30.